Okay, good day everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing Marvel's newest movie, Black Widow. Uh, I'll be breaking this review up into three parts, so I'll put the timestamps down below so you'll know if you want to skip ahead or not. Essentially, I'll do a spoiler-free review, I'll talk about some spoilers, I'll give a warning when I'm going to, and then I'll discuss the end credit scene, so you can skip ahead to whichever one you want. Uh, of course, if you're new here and this is your first time, consider hitting the sub button, hitting like, all of that good stuff, because I review movies, point out Easter eggs, all that stuff for all the Marvel shows so far. So you can check the playlist on my channel as well. So yeah, let's dive into it. So first things first, spoiler free section for the review starts here. um, so essentially, this movie picks up, as we see in the trailer, this movie picks up after Civil War, but before Infinity War. So we get the time period between then, or those two movies, and what Natasha did then. Of course, as you know from the trailer, this movie has Taskmaster in it as the villain. We have Black Widow's family, that they played up in the whole trail, in all the trailers actually, being Red Guardian, her sister Yelena, and the mother figure Melina. So those aren't spoilers; those are just what were in the trailers. But yeah, all in all, this movie was pretty good. It reminded me a lot of kind of like Terminator in that sense, where it's just action and chase scenes, and it was really good action. Wise, the movie was really good. Florence Pugh's Yelena Belova stole the show for me. She had really good one-liners. She fit into the movie pretty good. So it was pretty good casting done by Marvel. Uh, so I give them props on that. Taskmaster was the big bad. Kind of let me down a little bit, but if we take that out of it, there was a lot of action. So people who just going to see action, then in for a treat. The movie basically starts with action and ends with actions. I'm not going to spoil how and what yet. So yeah. Uh, all in all, if I had to give this movie a rating, I would say I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Um, so yeah, if you haven't seen it already, there's many ways to see it. You could go to cinema if there's an open cinema by you, or Disney Plus, or whatever means you have to see it. But yeah, all in all, really good movie. And I want to discuss certain things more, so this is where I will get into the spoilers. So, spoiler warning from here. Okay, that should give you enough time to skip forward or skip ahead. So yeah, now we're going to be discussing some of the spoilers in the movie. So the movie basically focuses on Black Widow's 2 years or 3 years, I believe, between Civil War and Infinity War. Um, and we see that basically she's on the run, and the movie hints at a few things, because when the movie opens up, we see Ross is after her, and she makes a comment that he's looking sickly, and if this is his third triple bypass or his second, and I feel this is more of a hint towards him becoming Thunderbolt Ross, as in Red Hulk Thunderbolt Ross, because he looks sickly and frail, and I'm going to assume he's going to want to be back out on the field in full form, so he may end up doing something to turn into the Red Hulk. That's just what I get from that. But the movie then follows her on her journey. So she leaves, she escapes Ross, she goes into hiding. And while in hiding, she receives basically mail, I would call it. But basically, the mail is some kind of serum that works to break the hold on Black Widows from the Red Room, because they're mind controlled, or in a way. It's kind of hard to explain. You'll have to see it to understand. But yeah. So there's that. Of course, we then cut and we see where the serum came from. Essentially, it was one of the other widows got out and got it, and her sister Yelena was after the widow, and the widow broke one in her face, freeing her, and that led to her sister sending it to her because she thought she was still in the Avengers to get the Avengers to help. So yeah, that's a mouthful. But this is now skipping a little bit ahead. We see Taskmaster now. This is where we first get introduced to Taskmaster, and he comes after Black Widow because she has the vials. Um, so we get her escaping with the vials, and then she goes to her next hideout, and eventually she runs into her sister. They meet up, and this was in the trailer as well. In the scene, kind of reminiscent of Civil War, where Cap and Bucky met in the building in the apartment and had a little battle. It was similar to that. Um, so yeah, and then they escape together. Taskmaster chases them with a cool car chase scene with some henchmen. Um, and the gist of the story now is it isn't really Taskmaster who's after them, but more so the Red Room and Dreykov is after them. And before we jump into Dreykov, if you remember in Avengers 1, we had foreshadowing of this when Loki, shout out to the Loki series, I reviewed those two, you can check that out somewhere here probably, or just, check the channel. But yeah, Loki mentions to her Dreykov's daughter in Avengers 1, so foreshadowing, and now we get what that means here. Because we find out that Dreykov's daughter was killed by Black Widow when she tried to kill Dreykov. And this leads to essentially the whole plot of the movie now, where Dreykov is still alive and he's after her and he's after these files because he wants to rule the world kind of with his widows. And we see even in the opening credits scenes of his widows all around the world. So basically his widows are like sleeper agents placed all over the world, and they can cause different things to occur at the snap of a finger. So yeah, so now that is the main part, guys. So we have that out of the way. So back to the chase now. So Taskmaster chase them, they get away, and when they get away, they decide that they are going to basically rescue Red Guardian, who is played by the same actor from Stranger Things, and he's in jail. So they go to rescue him, and it's pretty funny because while he's in jail, there's also a scene where he mentions that he fought Captain America. We found someone says that's not true because Cap was still in ice. So maybe a hint of him fighting another Captain America, but this is just a reference to the comics as well, where him and Cap did fight. So yeah, also while rescuing them, we see that Natasha and Yelena kind of start to form a relationship, or rekindle this relationship, and that's good. That is good. We see this with them joking around, like Yelena telling her she's a poser and she only poses like when she lands in a certain way, flips her hair, kind of like Deadpool calling out the superhero landing. So that's pretty cool, that dynamic. Also, I'll get back to this in a bit, but this will tie into the whole family aspect. But they rescue Red Guardian, and the three of them then go to this ranch where Melina is, and that is the mother figure that we've seen in the trailer. And this kind of reminds Yelena of a family. And I say this now because now let's talk about the family aspect. So the family aspect is, we saw in a flashback at the beginning of the movie that Widow, Yelena, Guardian, and Melina were all pretending to be this family doing some kind of mission in America, in Ohio, earlier on. And then when they finished the mission, they basically separated Widow and Yelena and took Yelena to the Red Room and all of that. So this is where the whole family aspect ties into it, because to Widow and Yelena, this was like a real family. So yeah, we also get a revelation about Widow's real mother in this movie, and it was found out that Dreykov had her killed. So, right, moving forward now. So, I'm going to now throw up some comic book images for these characters as I discuss them, but before we move on. So, the family of four consists of Black Widow. We already know what Black Widow looks like. We have Yelena, so this is Yelena as comic book, and then a movie, so you can compare and contrast the differences. Then we have Melina, again the mother figure. Um, However, something to note about Melina, this is her in the movie, what she looks like. Um, in the comics, she's also known as the Iron Maiden. And we didn't see the Iron Maiden Melina here, but we got a hint of it in this little panel right here from the movie, this little screenshot. We see what looks like the Iron Maiden mask. So that's the closest we got to that. And then, of course, we have Red Guardian from the comics, and this is what his MCU version looks like. So, these are what they look like. Okay, so pause. I forgot to mention one other Easter egg when I was speaking about Red Guardian at this point, so I'll add it in post, which is this now. So there was a scene as well here when they were in the cabin where Yelena and Red Guardian was speaking, and she called him the Crimson Dynamo. This is a call and a reference to the actual Crimson Dynamo, which is a MCU villain in the comics. So I'll throw up a picture of him now. So yeah, I forgot to mention that. So here it is now. So back to the review now. Moving forward now, we saw that Melina actually did call Dreykov to get them, and it looks like she turned on them. And the reason she did it was we thought that she was bad. But this now leads into a kind of double cross on a double cross kind of thing. So I'm still leaving out parts of the movie, of course, because I don't want to be too spoilery. I want you all to see certain things, so that's why I'm using light spoilers here. Um, but essentially, we get the Red Room agents. They come, they take the family, and they carry them to this area. And while carrying them, they say they're going to land, and they notice that there's nowhere to land. But when we look up in the sky, we see there's this big structure in the sky, and that's where Dreykov has been hiding, pretending to be dead all these years, in a sky castle fortress. How that flew under Shield's radar for so many years, I don't know. But yeah, um, there's that. It reminds me of the castle thing from Pokemon 2000 with Lugia and all of that was catching the birds. It reminds me a lot of that. But yeah, this is essentially where we find out double cross was a double cross, because we find out that Melina, who went to meet Dreykov after delivering them, was actually Black Widow using the face technology thing to switch her face, like in not Civil War, Winter Soldier. Um, so yeah, double cross and a double cross. They break out, and this is where it gets interesting. So I'm going to talk about Taskmaster now, and of course I'll drop the comic book and the normal movie version side by side so you can compare and contrast. And this is my only fault on the movie here. So as you can see, comic book Taskmaster here, movie Taskmaster here. So my thing is, the comic book Taskmaster has an ability where he basically remembers your moves photogenically, kinda. Photo reflects something, I think it's called in the comic, I can't remember offhand, but yeah. In the Black Widow movie, they make it that it's Dreykov's daughter, the one that Black Widow killed. She survived, but now she has a chip in her head, kind of like a Terminator-esque kind of thing, or more like Dark Fate, I would say. Not really Terminator. Terminator as in upgrade constantly, but Dark Fate as in you need the suit to kind of survive. So that's a big down for me. And they gender swapped. And come on, Marvel, I get the equality thing, but can we stop gender swapping every good villain and stop trashing them? Because Taskmaster is a good villain in the comics. In the Spider-Man game, he was awesome. Why would you ruin him like this? That's just my opinion. Either way, so we find out it is his daughter. And again, that's the only down part in the movie that made me kind of give it a lower rating. But other than that, we have the whole big battle play off now. We get the whole them destroying the big sky fortress and then killing Dreykov officially. We get the whole scene with them diving out the plane, like in the trailer, fighting in the air with the parachutes and all of that. Um, so yeah, we get all of that, and essentially the movie ends with Ross coming to get them, but the widows help them because they used the vials to free the widows, and the widows decided to help them. So the widows help them, and the widows take Yelena, Melina, and Red Guardian out of there. Um, so yeah, and then Black Widow, the screen turns black and she escapes somehow. We don't know how, but yeah, that's the next down. And finally, the last down in this movie is Red Guardian didn't have a shield. He got it at the end of the movie, but I feel like he was very underutilized in this movie. So I'm hoping he comes back and does better. Um, Taskmaster survives, so I'm hoping they upgrade Taskmaster somehow later on. Um, but yeah, and all in all, those are basically the spoilers. Again, I kept the spoilers to a minimum and left out certain parts without speaking about it because, again, it's a good movie, it's a good watch, even though it has some downs, you'll enjoy. And now, this is where we get into the third portion of the video, which is the end credit scene. So, end credit scene, credits roll. There's only one end credit scene, and the end credit scene shows Yelena visiting Black Widow at a grave. So she had a little funeral that we didn't get in Endgame, but I digress. And we see while she's there, someone comes to meet her, and it's Val. You all should know Val from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. She's the one who talked to US agent at the end of the series and gave him the new black suit. So we see she turns up and she basically gives Yelena a mission. Yelena asks her for a raise in pay, but essentially she gives her a mission, and the mission is she tells her, how would you like to go and take out the person who's responsible for your sister's death? And she opens a little iPad thing and we see Hawkeye in it. And this leads or will tie into now the Hawkeye series, which should be coming out this year sometime. But that is essentially what the end credit scenes is pointing to, not the next movie, but to that. There's also a rumor that Yelena was supposed to show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier as well. And I could see why, because Val was there. Um, so I'm guessing Yelena is supposed to show up there. But there were rumors, like I said, that it was cut because the movie got delayed and pushed back so long, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier came out first, so they didn't want to spoil things. So yeah, but essentially that is what it led to, and this kind of hints at the formation of the, I wouldn't say the Dark Avengers, but more so the Thunderbolts, because we have a sickly Ross who I'm sure is going to turn into Red Hulk soon. Um, Here we have the new Black Widow. We have US Agent, that's 3. And in the Shang-Chi trailer, yes, the word is trailer. In the Shang-Chi trailer, we saw Abomination, so that could be 4 potential people for the Thunderbolts. Of course, we know Zemo would be in it too if there's any use for him to come back. So yeah, those were my thoughts on the movie. Again, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little review. I tried to, even though it was a spoiler review again, I tried to keep the spoilers to a minimum so I don't hinder your enjoyment on the first time watching the movie. But yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.